Hello and welcome to our next video. I am Sarah Turner and I'm joined again by my friend and colleague Laura Dougal. We are both maternity return to work coaches. We have recorded a number of videos really exploring the work that we do in this space. And today we wanted just to jump on and do a really quick video touching on some of the frequently asked questions that tend to come up when we're talking to both organisations and to individuals who are really keen to explore this area of coaching for themselves or for their organisation. And if you're interested in checking out some of our previous videos, you can find those on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and on both of our websites. So I think we're going to kick off, Laura, with just touching on what we really mean when we use the word coaching.
Yeah, we thought we should include that, didn't we? Because it's sort of the most obvious question that we get asked. And just that we both find that maternity return coaching is just slightly different to other types of coaching, like exec coaching or career coaching, for instance, where in those instances, you might find that if you were to work with an exec coach or a career coach, you'd come in with a very specific and clear outcome that you wanted to reach. You'd have 6 sessions. You kind of know what you're going to bring into that. But in the world of being a new parent and returning to work, one of the biggest themes sometimes is the uncertainty. So it might not be that you set such a clear outcome. You might have a rough idea of where you want to get to, but it tends to be more emergent and fluid in that way because things change so quickly in this time period. And I would say personally that I think that maternity return coaching tends to be more supportive than challenging. Not always the case, but tends to be more supportive. And I guess within that it tends to be more holistic as well. So it doesn't have to be a work goal, for instance, that you're working on. It could be about, and we'll come on to this in a little while, about topics as well, but that it could be about different areas of your life. It might include something about how things are operating at home, being a parent, and obviously that sort of transition back into work as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree. And I think that, because I often say to new clients, you don't know what you don't know. But yeah, particularly if I'm speaking to someone before they go off maternity leave, that's the case. And even when they come back, they may well be a little bit more aware of what's going on, the reality of what they're facing, but they're still trying to figure it out. And that's really where the coaching comes into its own. So yes. Thinking about some of those topics then, because, and I really want to highlight that what we're going to go through here is not an exhaustive list. We could probably do a whole 10-minute video just on the different topics, couldn't we? But I guess, if I just touch on the first few that we've highlighted here, the number one for me that always comes up is around confidence. Boosting confidence, and that could be, it looks like it can be different topics for different people, but it could be confidence around going back to work and presenting in a meeting when you've not done that for 6 or 12 months. It could be adjusting to leaving your child in the care of someone else when actually you've been that sole child carer for the last however many months, and building your confidence in that and working through what that might look like for you. I don't know whether you've got other examples of confidence or maybe there's something else you want to pick up on.
Yeah, I would say same as you. I think confidence is probably the one thing that comes up in most coaching engagements, but exactly like you were saying as well, it looks completely different for everybody. And sometimes it might be touching on a change in identity and like the who am I, to have confidence in yourself, and then feeding into sort of self-esteem or belief in yourself or self-worth. So yeah, I would say confidence definitely tends to be an underlying theme. And then the kind of things that I expect that seem to be common themes that run through are things around, like I say, identity, but also time management, the practicalities of returning to work and sort of planning, having this time to really think through like, oh, what's my life going to look like? What do I need to get in place, and putting those plans in. Those are some of the things that come up, but also career development, and then reassessing career goals, and thinking about where you want to go and what you need to achieve that as well. So I think maternity return coaching, in my view, it's just such an exciting time to be coaching people, because there's all of these different things that kind of come up and run through. It's a really rich time in terms of change and transitioning to a different a different lifestyle.
Yeah, and I think that from an individual perspective, it's about having the safe space to be able to talk through what might seem like relatively not straightforward, but kind of simple things like, how do we manage the load at home, like the domestic load, the mental load it's called, through to how do I show up in front of the executive team to give a presentation when last week I was, all I was doing all day was changing nappies and, making formula, or not making formula, making baby food or whatever it might be. So, but those are very real, very true, very challenging and sometimes emotional topics for women in particular, but would also apply, there'll be other topics that would apply to men. But I'm thinking also from the organizational perspective, really setting up structures, processes for parents as they're coming back, so they feel supported, they feel understood, they feel heard. It's going to make such a difference. It does make such a difference to their experience as they return back to that workplace environment. So thinking about that then, thinking about the workplace, one of the questions we often get asked is, well, what happens? How confidential is this? Are you going to go and tell HR? Are you going to tell my line manager what we've talked about? What do you tend to say to your clients on that topic?
Yeah, this is one of the ways I think it's the most different from that kind of exec coaching or leadership coaching. So I always say that no, everything we do is completely private and confidential and only between the two of us. And that we can talk about whatever it is that is important to you. So I don't ask line managers or HR to come in and help setting objectives. We're not looking at it that way. It's intended to be a very supportive measure where you have a private and safe space to talk about all or any of these things. And then, yeah, nothing is fed back to line managers and HR, unless I would say that we're working with a number of people in an organisation, and then it might be that we would feedback themes of things that are coming through in a way that is intended to be supportive and for that team if they wanted to make improvements, but never identifying the person.
Yeah, and I've definitely done that. So there's one organisation in particular that I do a lot of their return to work coaching, and it is just about stepping back and going, what are some of the themes I'm consistently hearing? I'm happy to share that, one example is line managers need more support, which is something you and I have talked about. So that can be something that's really useful for the HR team to go, okay, right, now how can we put something in place to rectify that? So I guess as we draw this to a close, why should people bother? What do we think are the benefits of return to work coaching? I mean, for me, and I know I've shared this with you before, back when I had my two daughters, it wasn't something that I was aware of. I think if it was available, it was probably not that well known about. So if I had had the opportunity to have it at that time, I think it would have made a vast difference to my experience, my confidence, my emotional, how I was emotionally as I was returning to the workplace. It's really, as you've already used that word, supportive and enabling. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, everything you just said. And then I would say that the one word that I hear come back the most in feedback is a sense of calm. And I think it's just having, at a time that is, there's so much going on and so many things to think about. So to have some space, and, I wish I'd had this, to have some space that is just for you to think through what on earth is going on, what needs to happen next, and whatever is the most important thing on your mind. So to have that sort of safe space to think these things through. Yeah, I think one of the biggest benefits is feeling calm and more happy in that sort of dual role as a parent and working as well.
Yeah, and I think that from an organizational perspective, and there's lots of data out there that maybe we could do another video on this, but actually, if organizations are prepared to invest in this kind of coaching, the kind of the return on their investment is huge in terms of retention, in terms of female talent. If you're thinking at a more macro level, things like, starting to close that gender pay gap. There's a number of arguments for actually from an organizational level providing this level of support. So yeah, I mean, I would say in terms of what qualifies us to be here and talk about this, yes, it's our personal experience, of course, as we both just talked to, but also the fact that we're coaches, we're qualified, we're accredited, we invest in our own personal development, and we do a lot of work in this space. So it's something that we really both passionately believe in. and have a lot of experience in.
And I think that is important. I think having that sort of those three hats. So as parents, we're not parenting experts, we're not doing everything right, but we know how it feels to be a parent and to want to work at the same time and to still be doing both of those things. And then, like you say, I think both of us have worked in HR previously, so we've kind of got that angle to see things through as well, which is great if you're using these sessions to practice conversations that you want to have, or if you're thinking about, what might the organisation be thinking about what I should be doing. So we've got that view. And then obviously the fact that we're both qualified and accredited coaches as well. So we've got those three different angles that I think bring great experience to what we're doing. And we've come to a close on this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that's been useful. If you have got any other questions that you'd like to ask, please feel free to be in touch with either of us. And if you wanted to book a chemistry call to ask some more of these questions, then we can arrange a time to do that with you. Thanks for watching, and we'll look forward to sharing our next video with you.
Thank you.